what is actually the role of an account team when you go into an agency? What is that role? What should it be providing to the agency? What should it be providing to their clients? What's your take on that, Sally?
So first, thanks for the awesome introduction.
That's okay.
I think that's such a big question. And what I believe is that the account team should be the absolute linchpin between client world and internally within the agency. So they need to be nurturing the relationships so that they can get the best briefs, the best insight, the best, yes, projects, yes, commercials, and obviously the profit. Otherwise, why are we bothering? But that relationship piece with the clients to really build that partnership is absolutely critical.
Okay.
Then
That's
within the agency, actually they need to take all of that stuff and bring it into the agency and add value along the process. So they need to know how to inspire a team, how to look at things commercially, how to project manage, how to sort of move all the cogs so everybody's got the time and energy that they need to be absolutely brilliant. Um, so that's what
that's
I
what
think the
that's
account team should be.
okay. So there's quite. I was busily scribbling all that down and getting your thoughts down on it. So there's quite a lot of stuff there, Sally. Really, you're saying these account teams, they should have the capacity and the ability to nurture clients, be able to speak to them, understand the client's challenges and what is on their horizon, so the agency can help them. They should be building that relationship with those often quite senior people within their own clients, and as a result of doing that, bringing that back into the agency, and then really inspiring that agency team to do the best work for the client, but also then having this ability to manage the projects commercially and on time, and keep all these cogs sort of moving, and bringing that energy to the agency. So that feels like a lot of things we ask our account teams to do. So in doing that, in fulfilling that need of that team, what skills are really critical to junior account managers and then move on to account managers and into seniors and ADs, etc.? What are those critical skills these people are going to work in account teams to do all of this? What do they need to have? What should they be
Oh,
looking at? What should they be developing themselves? And I appreciate we've only got 20 minutes for this, so I do apologise.
I think, oh, as you've said, there's so many skills, so many things that they need to be juggling. I think the absolute priority for, if we're talking from a junior to set them up for success for their future career, to support the agencies, etc., they really need to have curiosity and empathy.
Oh, I like
For
that.
me, they are the unsung heroes of client servicing skills, because if we are curious, we're going to ask the questions, we're going to go digging, we're not going to just take it as, oh, I want a thing. But you don't need a thing, you need a what's it. My head's gone to a cheesy crisp and I
I
want them
like.
now. um but that curiosity, they're going to delve into things in a different way with the client, and they're also going to bring that back into the agency. So get curious about how different people work, and therefore how do we brief different people, how do we share different information, how do we escalate something, how do we share success. So curiosity is a massively underrated skill, but I think it's so critical to the success of an account handler. The other is that empathy. So one of the things I teach is that being able to stand in the shoes of your client, and I don't mean the actual brand, I mean literally the person that you are speaking to on a day-to-day basis, really understanding them. Because one of the things, and I know that you guys will hear this a lot as well, is, well, the client's ghosting me, the client's taking ages to come back, the client, and it becomes almost like a us against them. Actually employing that empathy, I understand that that person is probably now avoiding contact because they're worried about something. They've got challenges, whether that be in the workplace or at home and all that kind of stuff. So if they've got those skills, they can understand more about what's happening. And obviously there's loads more examples about how those two skills get used. But once you've got those sort of softer skills, then we can start looking at relationships, then we can start looking at commerciality, at project management, at briefing. Oh my gosh, like briefing is a whole subject in and of itself. It's not a form, everybody. It is not a form. It's the first piece of creative or the first press cutting, whatever your agency sort of focuses on. And yeah, so there's tons, there's absolutely tons. But I think if we can start from a place of curiosity and empathy, that doesn't mean that we need to be soft and not commercially minded. To the contrary, but we're nurturing relationships internally and with our clients that will ultimately elevate the relationship so that we're true partners because we give a shit.
Yeah, because we
It's
really care
fine.
about
We
the
really
client
care.
business and what they need to do. I think that
Absolutely.
that curiosity and the empathy bit is really, really interesting, Sally. And there's this, I think it's a Japanese style where you ask 5 times to get to the real truth of what somebody's really thinking or really wants or where they really need to take whatever they're trying to do. And I think in today's environment, especially with things like the meetings happening in a Teams situation like we're doing now,
Yeah.
to actually be able to stand back and say, right, Sally, you've told me this, but tell me a little bit more about this. And then you tell me a little bit more. Right, okay, that's interesting. Tell me a little bit more about that. That's the bit I don't see agencies really coaching and mentoring their teams on enough.
I totally agree. I think there's a massive fear, and obviously we're all aware of the political and economic climate that we're operating in. So people are making different decisions, but I think there's so much fear of losing a client and losing a contract, losing whatever. And therefore the go-to is, well, yes, of course we can do that. Yes,
Yeah,
of course we can do that 3 weeks ago. Yes, of course you can reduce the budget, but have more stuff. Like all of these things are happening, or we're massively over servicing clients and projects because we're not able to challenge that to get to the right brief. So clients are seeing something for the first time and go, oh, no, that's not what I meant, because we've not had the skills up front to really, really understand what it is that they need rather than what they're asking for. You know, I want a pink giraffe, great, but do you need a pink giraffe or do you need a blue horse? Because we think you need a blue horse, and that's where the strategic stuff comes in. The account handler knowing, either being really strong strategically themselves or knowing who to bring into the conversation to go, they've asked for this, I think this, but I don't know how to help them understand. Because then there's, you know, then there's we don't want to call people out. We don't want to be like, well, you're wrong, you're asking for the wrong thing, because, well, that's a rubbish relationship, isn't it? But how do we help our individual human clients? They're not, you know, not just the ones paying the money, but the people that we're dealing with. How do
yeah.
we build their confidence, their knowledge, so that they can go back into their client, into their brand team, whatever, and go, look, guys, actually, they can go take all the credit. That's what we need to be doing, is making them famous for whatever reasons
They
they want to be famous.
making our clients look amazing and look famous.
Yes.
And I do. I think it does come back to that curiosity piece to really get under the skin of, as she said, what is that person looking for? That empathy piece, because that I see a lot of account managers that when you speak to them, I genuinely don't think they've got the skill set to be able to do that. They've not been coached or mentored in that, and as a result of that, when you speak to those people, they'll often feel that their role within the agency, going back to your point, is to keep the client happy
Yeah.
at all costs, regardless of what they're saying. We need the blue horse or the pink giraffe or whatever, just to say okay, and then take that back in. So yeah, I think you alluded to it earlier. Because of that, then often they're not in a position or they're not comfortable managing the commercials of the jobs, which obviously make all the commercials of the clients. And you see time and time again those projects overrunning
Yes.
There's not the ability to have a honest and frank conversation with the client about the projects and what's happening. So therefore, the jobs become less profitable than they should, and there's an under recovery there. So
And the work, Jay, the actual work at the end of it is not going to be as good because
correct.
we're working with really passionate and creative people, and they don't want to be on round 87 of amends. I mean, 87 is probably a little bit dramatic, but even round 5 or 6,
Yeah,
the work just gets worse. And who wants rubbish work? We want to have portfolio award-worthy work. And all of this, yes, of course, there's an impact on commercials without a doubt, but there's also a massive impact on the final output and the work that we're producing, which saddens me. Like, I got into this industry because I love the work and love seeing how it all comes together. Kind of lost a bit of that joy, that magic, that spark, which is really sad.
yeah,
Really, really
it is.
sad.
So we've got these skill sets there of like that curiosity. I'd add a word to that as well, skeptical. So I think you should be curious and skeptical at the same time. And I think you then
Yes.
get the best out of that, as long as you're applying that empathy to the person you're speaking to. You can't be coming across as aggressive, but for having that skeptical side of it as well, along the curiosity, I think genuinely works.
Yeah.
So we know we've got to get our accounts team to start thinking this way. And then when they're thinking that way, we get great work. But then they've got to manage the commercials and the timelines and all of this within the agency. And to your point, I love that the brief is not a form. I fucking love that. So that is really good. So what training do we give these people? Where do we go? Where do we start? Do we start the commercials? Do we start at the front? I know you said they're the key things for you, the curiosity and the empathy, relationship building. How do we put a program together? So we've got these junior account people straight out of uni, full of energy. How do we put something together, coaches and mentors them, to set them up for success for them in their career, but also for the agency?
Yeah, oh, massively for the agency. I think so. I've actually built a program. I think we start in the place that is understanding their strengths as individuals, because once they understand their strengths and perhaps their weaknesses, or perhaps the things that they've learned to get strong, which takes their energy, once they've learned that, they can apply some of that thought outwardly, so to their internal teams and to their clients, they can understand them a little bit more. So that starts to embed some of this curiosity and empathy. Then we start looking at communication. What even is communication? What's the importance of storytelling in communication? How do we verbal communication versus written communication? A deck, do we need a deck? Do we? Looking at, so some of those like real foundational skills, then we build on that. So then we start talking about specifics. So we look at client relationships. What are they? Why do we need a partnership? We're not in a restaurant taking orders.
Yeah,
We are a partnership trying to get the best work. We look at meetings, like how, like to your point in the intro, we're bouncing from meeting to meeting to meeting. Actually, from an account handler's perspective, let's look at that and go, do we need a meeting? What's the objective of that meeting? And totally reframing what a meeting is. Then we can start considering, okay, well, for our internal teams, how do we get the best out of those guys? So looking at all of this stuff that we've done with communication and we've done with that client relationship, how do we bring that internally? So how do we inspire? How do we manage expectation? How do we say to a really passionate designer, calm down? That's not the brief. Stop it.
keep
Oh,
them on track to what
exactly.
the client needs.
Exactly. And how do we deal with the finance teams? How do we escalate things? How do we manage upwards? How do, all of those kind of skills within the agency? Then we start building into briefing. So because we've now got this, we've added some more bricks on, then we can think about briefing. And this is not a form. I
Yeah.
can't say this strongly enough.
Love this.
This is about like the philosophy, the principles of briefing. Like, what is it? Well, actually, it's understanding an objective, a challenge, a problem to solve, and positioning it in a way to the skill set that you are going to be working with, to ensure that they are focused, but they've got enough room to breathe and explore, to come up with something innovative, exciting, challenging, whatever it might be. So how do we do that? And, you know, a briefing session, it very, 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 very never, that's not a sentence. It should never be, I've just forwarded you the email, I've just forwarded you the brief, unless it's like, you know, can you deliver to this specification because it's a piece of artwork going to print. Most briefs need a conversation. So how do you make that engaging for the skill set so they're really immersed in the way that you've been immersed? And then once we've got all of that, then we start thinking about commercials. Then we've understood all of this stuff, and then we can put the commercial lens on it. Then we can start looking at, well, how do we grow this account without it being like, we've got this new service, please buy it.
Yes.
Like, no, well, I've understood all of these things. So it's a real journey that they need to be taken on to understand themselves, the internal team, the client team, and then start adding on some of the specific things that they're going to be looking at. Oh, and we'll throw some project management in there as well.
And
Not a Prince 2 qualification as an
yeah, maybe overkill for some of the creative jobs. Maybe for some of the big digital jobs,
yes,
it would probably be
absolutely.
very, very relevant. The briefing thing's really interesting. Many years ago, I sat on a session with um, an ECD, and he was doing a briefing session to a group of account managers. And now, when I think of what he was doing with them, it really does come back to that curiosity side and getting down to what are they really trying to do. And I remember one of the things he was saying to the discount team that, you know, we get a brief and it'll say use vibrant colors. What does that actually mean? Unless you've said, Sally, when you say vibrant, give me an example of a vibrant color, because vibrant to me could be this red tiger camo overshirt, but somewhere else, vibrant could be black. So
Living my best vibrant
exactly.
life.
So I think that is really, really, really key. That briefing and getting that, because ultimately, without really good briefing that's come from the curiosity of understanding the client, the commercials will be shot to bits.
Exactly. And I think the ripple effect onto the agency brilliance and creating incredible work has to start with the account handlers, because they are talking to everybody, they're influencing everything, they are the linchpin to the success of any project. So it's insane that there's no formal training for them. So it's like,
Yeah.
hey, you're good at chatting, crack on.
So what? And I've banged on about this for many years in the industry, because I see people that end up in senior roles that
Mm,
the agency leaders or the owners are frustrated with these people, because in their heads they're not delivering what they should be delivering for that level of salary or that level of role. But when you question, well, how have they got there? It's almost they've got there because of salary increases
yeah,
rather than the ability to carry out the role. So
yeah.
have you got any views, and you may absolutely not, but have you got any views why agencies are reluctant to invest in what is actually a really key critical component of making their business successful?
I I've got a few schools of thought on this, and this is based on lots of conversations. I think for some it's, well, we should be doing this internally. We should be able to train our teams. It's absolutely like nothing about what I talk about should be spoken about. It should just, like, in the same way that we train an accountant, we should be training. So I think there's almost a shame in the industry that well, we should be doing this, so don't embarrass me by getting outsourced training and things, which I just think I get it. Like I absolutely get it. But there is no change without change. So we're going to keep losing people out of the industry or just out of that agency who are brilliant people, because we've set them up to fail unintentionally. And I think that piece about, you know, progressing through an agency, we've got people in those mid to senior levels that have been there because they are brilliant at specific things. So going back to that like multifaceted role, actually, I don't think we truly understand what an account handler is. So
Yeah.
where we've got these founder-led agencies, they're set up because that founder is incredible at their craft. So they're an incredible designer or a photographer or whatever that skill set might be. They don't really, and I've had this conversation a number of times, they don't really understand what an account manager is. It's, oh, well, they just manage the project bit, or they just, oh, we could do that. We don't need that skill set. It's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You
Which is
do.
fundamental to making everything work in
Exactly.
agency. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think there's a shame and embarrassment and a kind of those people that are being looked to do that training, they don't know how they learned some of those skills. Because when I started in agency, and I'm sure the same will be said for a lot of people, we were whipped. The expectation was sent. We learned through osmosis in so many cases because we were sat with people all day, every day. So you could see, oh God, I want to be like that CSD when I grow up, or I want to be absolutely nothing like that one. In the same way of parenting, right? You kind of, there's no booklet, there's no instructions.
Doesn't come with a manual, does it?
Exactly. So yeah, and fear drives some interesting decisions, doesn't it?
I think the when you look at this, it's an investment, and it's not just an investment of money; it's also an investment of time. And I
Yes.
think often it's the time investment that is the barrier to making this happen, because
Yeah.
agencies are, they're incredibly busy. You could argue, based on the amount of busyness they've got, their revenue should be higher. It never is. So I think, but
Yes.
because of that time investment is also a black blocker. Sally,
Yeah.
can you believe it's 5 to 10?
I cannot, but can I just say one more thing
Of course
in
you can. Of course you
response to that? This feeling of, gosh, we're so busy, we need more people, it's too much. I challenge those teams to really reflect, because 9 times out of 10, it's because things aren't being done efficiently and effectively. We've not got the right brief. We're on round 26 of amends. So actually, if we could go back to the foundations of almost agency ops and training and getting the right brief and all those kind of things that we've discussed, then actually the people that we have got will be more than capable of delivering what we need. And we'll see the return on investment without a doubt.